And welcome back. You're listening to Life Unrehearsed. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Matt Del Vecchio. Did you know that June is ALS Awareness Month? And joining me is Claudine Cook, Executive Director of the ALS Society of Quebec. Claudine, welcome to Life Unrehearsed.
Hi, Matt. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for coming on the show, Claudine. I know you are one busy person year-round, but especially in the month of June, a ton of events. I think you've even had to pull over in your car. What part of Quebec are you in right now?
I made it home from Sherbrooke.
Oh, you did make it home.
Yes,
okay.
I made it home, and yes, it's a busy month, but it's a very inspiring month as we have walks across the country and all kinds of events to help raise awareness and funds and shine the light on ALS.
Yeah.
Thank you for giving us this opportunity to do this with your show.
Oh, my pleasure. And this is exactly what we want to do, Claudine, is shine the light. We're going to talk about some of those events shortly. Now, let's back it up a little bit. Can you, define for us what is ALS?
ALS is a motor neuron disease. It's to put it in simple ways for a complex disease, it's when the brain loses its connection to the spinal cord. That, the brain, gives the signal to the muscles to move, but they're not receiving that signal. So eventually people with ALS lose their ability to use their muscles and walk, which causes, to walk, talk, breathe, and it is a fatal disease. So that's the way to best explain it. And people eventually become prisoners within their bodies, yet their intellect remains fully intact. So it's a devastating disease that not only affects the person living with ALS, but their family members as well.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, it is sad. It is a fatal disease, and this is why there still needs to be so much research and work done, and you're a big proponent of promoting what we can do to improve the lives of those with ALS. And there are a ton of events, particularly in June, as it is ALS Awareness Month. Can you share a few with us, Claudine?
Well, we've had we've had walks. We've had Montreal already. We've had Quebec. We have Sherbrooke, but there'll be walk in Three Rivers, walk in St. Adele in the fall, and Charlevoix. We have our annual cycling event in Valleyfield, which is a 1-day or a 2-day cycling event. We'll have a unique golf event happening in July, so that will be something for people to stay tuned for how that unique event will unfold. And, there's there's hikes that people can do. There's a bunch of virtual events. People can volunteer. Every action that everybody does really helps push our mission forward.
Listening to Life Unrehearsed, talking with Claudine Cook, Executive Director of the ALS Society of Quebec. Now, Claudine, we talked a little bit about research, and what are you seeing on the front lines? Have there been any significant advances in the treatment of ALS?
Well, yes, and one thing we are celebrating this summer, it's the 10th anniversary of the Ice Bucket Challenge, and we will be commemorating that. It started already with ice buckets being poured at our walks and at different other events, so you'll start seeing some of these videos, and it's not trying to restart it, but it's really commemorating it and how it was linked to that global movement that united the world, and it raised unprecedented funds that really fueled research. There's resources for research were enhanced, collaborations with researchers. They now better understand what the disease is, and they identified new genes over the last 10 years that, again, allow them to think new ways about thinking about the disease because they know so much more, and developing new strategies to try and find new treatments and also to ultimately stop it fully. And that's why we're all working so hard. And we have a research Q&A, virtual research session tomorrow night that the public's invited to from 6 to 8 p.m. They can go to our website, and we have a panel of researchers there to give highlights on the advancements of research, and also people can ask their questions directly. So it's a great opportunity to get firsthand how research is progressing, because there is progress, but more funds are needed that will just help keep pushing that dial forward.
Yeah, and moving that dial forward is right. We're going to, later on, Claudine, we're going to get that website out there so our listeners can find out more about that research Q&A. Great initiative happening tomorrow. Now, I think general public there's this fear, oh my goodness, does a loved one, do I have ALS? And because it is such a devastating disease. So what are some of the symptoms that some people should be looking for?
ALS is known to be a difficult one to diagnose because sometimes people feel fatigued. Sometimes, but they can really think, oh, maybe I'm stressed or I'm just having a bad week. Or sometimes it's a weakness in a hand or a dropped foot, or sometimes it's if they're speaking and they start slurring their words. There could be, at first, people think so many different ways. If their hand starts getting weak, is it use of the computer? But these clinicians are getting, families are getting diagnosed faster. And it's important that if they do feel unwell, see their family doctor and really ask for a referral to see a neurologist. And the neurologist can refer them to an ALS specialist if they need to. But those are the general symptoms. But again, it can be complex, and sometimes people live with different symptoms for a year and not really realize, and then they say, okay, it's time to go get checked, because they could be mild at first, or it could be significant. No two pathways or no two people experience ALS in the same way.
Listening to Life Unrehearsed, Matt Del Vecchio here, and I'm talking to Claudine Cook, Executive Director of the ALS Society of Quebec. Now, Claudine, you did mention it a little bit. I wanted to expand a little bit. If you do think, you know what, something's not right here, and what you would recommend to families who think that there may be some issues with a loved one. So it starts with a doctor, a GP, and then there's this sort of domino effect to the specialist, right?
Right. You see a neurologist, see an ALS specialist in Montreal. There's at the neuro and there's at the SHIM as well, and their family doctor can refer them directly to the ALS clinics, and there they have a whole host of obviously tests and care and et cetera for families, and ALS Quebec is there to complement that support.
Just great. All right. So let's get that word out. How can our listeners find out more about ALS Quebec and the great website, lots of resources, including this research Q&A for tomorrow night?
Yes, so it's alsquebec.ca, and the services that we provide is really, we're there to support families at every stage of the disease, right from the beginning with, like, as you mentioned, education and resources, and we offer support groups, one-on-one counseling. There's educational webinars, like we're doing with the Q&A tomorrow night. We also match families so that, families can meet and gain strength and experiences from one another. And we also have the bereavement program, because we once a family member passed, we're there for all family members afterwards as well. So there's a variety. Even there's financial aid for families who are in need as well. So every action counts. If people are willing to help us, we will welcome donations, we'll welcome volunteers, and even just participation in our events. They'll be inspired for the rest of their lives.
Inspired is right, Claudine. Well, I want to thank you very much. Good luck on all the future events that you're going to be hosting. And I want to thank you for taking a little time here as we celebrate ALS Awareness Month and getting the word out.
Thank you very much, Matt.
All right, that's Claudine Cook, Executive Director of the ALS Society of Quebec. Next week on Life Unrehearsed, it's Father's Day, tribute to dads. I'm going to be talking to Carl Subban, in fact, PK's dad. Annual tradition here on Life Unrehearsed. Mr. Subban's going to join me, and we're going to have another wonderful story about a gentleman and a tribute to his dad after he found a whole bunch of pictures. I'm talking thousands of pictures that he had taken and turned it into a tribute for his dad as well. So that's coming up next week on Life Unrehearsed. Thank you very much for tuning in.